Every single day, without any warning, thousands of older adults lose the ability to get up off the floor on their own. Not because they fell, not because of surgery, simply because they stopped moving in the directions their body was designed for and the machinery quietly locked up. By the time most people notice, they have already lost years of function they did not know they were spending. I am a physician who has spent more than 15 years sitting across from patients who said the same thing. It happened gradually. The back pain that started at 55, the hips that began grinding at 60, the jar that slipped from a grip that used to feel strong. They all assumed it was aging. I am here to tell you it is not, at least not mostly. What is happening inside your hips, your spine, and your hands right now has a mechanism, a clear and well understood biological reason. And understanding that mechanism changes everything because it means the direction can be reversed. What I am going to walk you through today is 3 specific minutes of movement. 1 minute for your hips, 1 minute for your spine, 1 minute for your grip. I am going to explain the science behind why each one works at a level that no 10-minute appointment ever had time to reach. And I am going to tell you about the error that makes this entire practice useless, because I have watched patients make it over and over, and it cost them everything they were trying to protect. Stay with me until we reach the grip, because what the research says about grip strength and how long you live is the thing that stops my patients mid-sentence when I tell them it is not what you expect, and it changes how you think about your hands for the rest of your life. Before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment right now telling me how old you are and what your biggest physical complaint is in the morning, whether that is a stiff back, sore hips, or something else. I read those comments, and the concerns this audience shares are what shape the videos I make next. Now, let me give you the framework that makes everything else click. Your body is built around 3 mechanical systems that are non-negotiable for independent life: the hip joint, the spinal column, and the grip, meaning the chain of muscles running from your fingertips through your hands, forearms, and all the way into your back. Each of these systems is designed for movement, not for rest, not for stillness, but for active, varied daily movement. And here is the biological truth that holds all 3 together. None of these systems has a blood supply the way your heart or your kidneys do. They are nourished by movement itself. When you move, fluid circulates. Cartilage absorbs nutrients. Nerves stay engaged. Muscles remember how to fire. But when you stop moving, or when you move in only 1 or 2 of the directions these systems were built for, they begin to dry out, stiffen, and forget. Not metaphorically, literally. This is the mechanism I want you to keep in mind as we go through each one, because every minute of movement I am about to describe is doing the same essential thing. It is pumping life back into a system that modern daily life has been slowly starving. Let us start with the hips, because this is where most of the story begins. The hip is what we call a ball and socket joint. The rounded head of your femur, the long bone of your thigh, sits inside a cup-shaped socket in your pelvis. Around that joint are layers of cartilage, ligaments, muscle, and connective tissue. It is not one thing. It is an entire small universe of interrelated structures. And that joint is designed to move in 6 directions: forward and back, side to side, and rotating inward and outward. 6 directions of movement. Now think honestly about how many of those 6 directions you actually use on a typical day. If you sit for most of the day, you are using 1, maybe 2. You sit down, you stand up, you walk forward. That is your hip's entire world. What happens to the other 4 directions? They quietly deteriorate. The muscles that produce those movements weaken, the connective tissue shortens and tightens. The nerves that activate those muscles begin to lose their sharpness. After a decade of moving in, only 1 or 2 of the 6 directions the hip was built for, the joint is functioning at roughly half capacity. And when people tell me they feel old in their hips, that is usually what they are describing, not age, but disuse. There is research that illustrates just how consequential this becomes. A Brazilian researcher named Claudio Gil Araújo developed what is called the sitting rising test. The concept is simple. You sit on the floor with your legs crossed and then stand up without using your hands, your knees, or losing your balance. The score runs from 0 to 10, and you lose 1 point each time you need to use a hand, a knee, or catch your balance. Araujo tracked thousands of people, most of them between 50 and 80 years of age, and what he found was extraordinary. People who scored 8 or higher on this test, those who could rise from the floor with ease, lived significantly longer than those who scored 3 or below. The people with low scores had between 5 and 6 times higher risk of dying in the following 6 years compared to those with high scores. 5 to 6 times over 6 years, based on whether they could get up from the floor. What that test actually measures is the precise combination of things we were talking about today: hip mobility, spinal flexibility, leg strength, and balance. It is a window into the whole system. And what matters most for our conversation right now is this: that ability is trainable. It can be improved at any age. I want to be clear about that because it matters deeply to the patients I see in their 60s and 70s who assume the decline is permanent. It is not. The first minute of your morning belongs to the hips. You are going to do what is called a deep squat hold. I know that word conjures images of a gym with heavy bars, and I want you to let that image go completely. The deep squat is the most natural resting position for the human body. Go to any part of the world where people have not spent their lives in chairs, and you will find elderly people sitting in a deep squat, effortlessly, completely at ease for long stretches of time. It is our biological default. We moved away from it when chairs became our constant environment. After you wake up, stand with your feet roughly shoulder width apart. You can turn your toes out slightly, about 15 degrees, whatever feels natural. Then lower yourself slowly until your hips drop below your knees. Keep your heels on the floor if you can. Keep your chest up, and then simply sit there for 60 seconds. That is the entire exercise. You are not pushing for depth. You are not forcing a stretch. You are simply asking your hip joint to occupy a position it was designed for and letting it respond. If you need to hold a door frame or a chair back at first for balance, that is completely fine. The point is not perfection. The point is showing up and asking the joint to move. Now the spine. And this one is even more interesting to me as a physician because the spine is so widely misunderstood by the people whose lives depend on it. Most people think of the spine as a solid rod, a fixed structure holding them upright. It is not. Your spine has a beautiful shaped curve with gentle arcs at the neck and the lower back. It is made up of 24 movable vertebrae stacked one on top of another with small discs of soft cartilaginous material between each pair. Those discs do not have a direct blood supply. This is the critical piece of information that nobody explains clearly. The only way those discs get nourished, the only way they stay hydrated and healthy, is through movement. When you bend, they compress. When you extend, they expand and absorb fluid from the surrounding tissue. It is a biological pumping system, and it only works when you move. When you sit at a desk for 8 hours, then sit in a car for another hour, then sit on a sofa for 3 hours, those discs are not being pumped, they are not being fed, they begin to dry out, and dry discs crack, bulge, and herniate. By the time most people reach their 40s, the discs in the lower spine have already lost a meaningful portion of their water content simply from the way modern life is structured. This is not a rare medical tragedy. It is the average condition of a modern human spine. 1 minute of the right spinal movement in the morning floods those discs with fluid and nutrients. It is exactly like watering a plant that has been sitting in dry soil. The specific movement is one that has been practiced in yoga traditions for thousands of years, which tells you something about how long human beings have understood this need intuitively. You come down to the floor on your hands and knees, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Then you move your spine like a slow wave. Lower your belly toward the floor, lift your head gently, and let your lower back arch. Then reverse it, press your hands into the floor, draw your chin down, and round your back up toward the ceiling, then back again. And you move slowly, breathing with each movement, following the rhythm of your breath rather than pushing through it. Somewhere between 15 and 20 repetitions in 60 seconds at a gentle pace. Each cycle compresses and decompresses different segments of your spine, pumping fluid through the discs and reactivating the deep, stabilizing muscles that protect you when you are not thinking about your posture at all. Research in people with chronic low back pain has shown measurable improvements in disc hydration, in spinal flexibility, and in pain levels after consistent daily practice of this type of movement. The spine responds. It is not too late. It is essentially never too late to restart this pumping system because the discs are always ready to absorb fluid the moment movement gives them the opportunity. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment because we are about halfway through this, and I want to say something directly. What I have covered so far, the hip mechanic, the research behind the sitting rising test, the disc physiology, this is the kind of information I wish every one of my patients had heard 20 years before they walked into my office. It is the full explanation, not the 30-second version you get before the appointment ends. And if you want all of it in one place, including the practical guides on movement, on what to eat to support your joints, and on the early warning signs that your spine and hips are starting to compensate in ways you need to know about, all of that is in the Complete Senior Health Vault. You can find the link in the description below or scan the code on your screen right now. It is the full plain English material that the visit never had time for. Now, let me get to the third minute, because this is the one that changes how you think about your hands. Grip strength. When I bring this up with patients, most of them smile politely because they assume I am about to talk about something marginal, something that matters to athletes or to people who work with their hands. And then I tell them what the data actually shows, and the smile changes. A large study published in The Lancet, which is one of the most respected medical journals in the world, followed nearly 140,000 people across 17 countries. The researchers measured grip strength and then tracked outcomes over time. What they found was that grip strength was a better predictor of death from any cause than blood pressure. The simple mechanical force of your hand squeeze told them more about how long you would live than one of the most commonly measured vital signs in medicine. Why would that be true? Because grip strength is not really about the hand, it is a window into your entire neuromuscular system. The muscles of the hand are connected through tendons, nerves, and connective tissue to the forearm, the shoulder, the upper back, and all the way into the trunk. A weak grip is almost never just a weak hand. It is a signal that the whole chain is losing integrity. And the chain is what matters, because at 60, 70, and 80 years of age, the event that most commonly begins a person's physical decline is not a disease diagnosis. It is a fall. A person falls, fractures a hip, spends 2 weeks in a hospital bed, and then the cascade begins. Pneumonia, blood clots, muscle atrophy. The grip is often what stops a fall before it becomes a fracture. It is what holds the railing. It is what catches you when your balance shifts. The third minute belongs to hanging. You are going to find something to hang from. A pull-up bar and a door frame cost roughly $20 at any sporting goods store. A sturdy tree branch works, a beam in a garage works, you grip it with both hands and you hang. If you cannot take your feet fully off the ground at first, keep them lightly on the floor for support. The goal is 60 seconds of accumulated hang time. You can break it into 3 sets of 20 seconds. You can do 2 sets of 30. It does not matter how you divide it. What matters is the total time your grip is loaded and your spine is decompressing, because that is the second thing hanging does. Your spine has been compressed all night while you slept, and it will be compressed all day while you sit. Hanging creates traction, the gentle elongation of the spine that allows the discs to rehydrate and the nerve roots to breathe. An orthopedic surgeon named Dr. John Kirsch documented in his clinical work that regular hanging practice resolved shoulder problems that had not responded to surgical intervention, simply by restoring the shoulder joint to the position and the mechanical loading it was designed for. We are built to hang. The reflex is present from birth. A newborn placed on a horizontal surface will grip and hold with enough force to support its own body weight. That is not random. That is how deep this capacity goes. We did not lose it. We simply stopped using it. Quick pause here. If this is making sense, if you are hearing a coherent picture of why your body feels the way it does in the morning, please tap the like button. It is a small thing that genuinely helps this content reach more older adults who need it. And if someone in your family has been complaining about hip stiffness or back pain and dismissing it as just getting older, send them this video. Now, let me tell you about someone I will call Margaret. She was 71 years old and came to see me after her daughter noticed she was holding the railing on both sides when she went up the stairs. Margaret had convinced herself it was just caution. She was not in pain, not dramatically, just stiff every morning for the first hour or so, just slow when she stood up from chairs, just a little nervous going downstairs in unfamiliar places. When I had her try the sitting rising test, she scored a 4 out of 10. We did not start with a prescription. We did not start with physical therapy 3 times a week. We started with 3 minutes every morning, these 3 minutes, and we started gently. Some mornings she held a chair for her squat. Some mornings her hang was 15 seconds at a time. She was not competing. She was simply showing up. Within 12 weeks, her morning stiffness had reduced from about an hour to less than 15 minutes. Within 6 months, she retested on the sitting rising test and scored a 7. She told me in her follow-up appointment that she had spent the weekend rearranging her kitchen cabinets, including reaching items on the top shelf, without asking her daughter for help. She said it quietly, the way people say things that matter more than they expected to. That one detail, rearranging her own kitchen without needing help, was not small to her. It was her independence, and she had quietly been afraid she was losing it. That is the arc I watch unfold when people commit to this consistently. The stiffness retreats, the confidence returns. And with confidence comes the willingness to move more, which creates more of the lubricating effect that makes movement easier, which creates more willingness to move. It is a flywheel, and these 3 minutes are what starts it spinning each morning. Now, I promised you I would address the error that turns this practice into wasted time. It is the one mistake I see most often, and it is driven by good intentions gone slightly wrong. The error is intensity. When someone encounters an idea like this and feels genuinely motivated, the instinct is to do more, to squat deeper than the hips are currently offering, to force the spine through the cat and cow movement faster and with more range than it is ready for, to hang until the shoulders burn and the hands ache. And the day after that, they are sore. And the day after that, still sore. And by day 3, they skip it. And by day 5, it is gone. 3 minutes is not about effort. It is about presence. You go to the depth your body offers you today, not the depth you think you should have. You move at the speed of your breath, not faster. You hang for however long feels honest, not as long as your ego wants. You stop at 3 minutes. You do not add a fourth. You do not make this into a workout. Because the moment it becomes a workout, it acquires the psychology of a workout, which means it requires motivation, and motivation is unreliable. 3 minutes is too short to require motivation. You can do it sick. You can do it tired. You can do it in your kitchen before you have made coffee. And because it asks so little, it is the kind of small promise to yourself that you can keep every single day without failure. And this is where I want to say something about what these 3 minutes are actually building over time. Because it is not just about the hips and the spine and the grip, though those matter enormously. When you become the kind of person who shows up for their body for 3 minutes every morning before the day gets away from them, you become the kind of person who keeps small promises to themselves. And the human being who keeps small promises to themselves gradually becomes the one who keeps larger ones. The consistency is not a side benefit, it is the main event. Every morning you do this, your brain receives confirmation that you follow through on what you decide to do. That accumulates. After a year, you have logged over 300 hours of investment in the only body you will ever have. After 5 years, that compounding effect is visible, not just in your hips and your spine and your grip, but in how you carry yourself, how you move through a room, how you feel when you wake up. Here is your plan for tomorrow morning. First, before you reach for your phone, before you open your laptop, stand up and plant your feet. Second, lower slowly into a deep squat and hold for 60 seconds, holding a door frame if you need to. Third, come to the floor on hands and knees and move your spine like a wave, slow and deliberate, breathing with every cycle for 60 seconds. Fourth, find your bar or your branch and hang for 60 accumulated seconds, broken into sets if needed. Fifth, notice how you feel when those 3 minutes are done, because that feeling, the warm joints, the cleared head, the shift in your body chemistry is the information that makes the next morning easier to choose. Before you go, I want to leave you with one more thought. Most of what we call the physical miseries of getting older are not written into our biology as inevitables. They are the accumulated result of small daily neglect. Decades of not asking the hips to move in more than 2 directions. Decades of not pumping the spinal disc. Decades of not loading the grip. The good news, and I mean this as a clinician who has watched it happen, is that the body is remarkably willing to respond when you start asking it again. Not because it is magic, because it is built for exactly this. The next video is going to show you something I have not covered yet, a specific pattern of morning stiffness that most people assume is normal aging, but that is actually your body sending a signal about something deeper. Watch for it before you go. Stay sharp, and I will see you there.